access right here unless you have clearance. So it's going to be traffic. They're going to be redirecting down Clifton Road. So,
you know, Reginald, you just talked about all the people around you, other employees, people who live in the area. We know there's a lot of apartments and condos there as well.
yeah.
I know it's hard to stay where you are, but I want to just communicate to you and anyone listening that Emory just tweeted to continue to shelter in place. So the safest thing is stay where you are as they are working to determine if there's a second shooter involved in this active shooting there on the Emory Atlanta campus. Can you just give me your first reaction, what you felt in your gut when that text came through, Reginald?
This is my first time having an active shooter here on Emory's campus since I've been here. So it's just a little frightening. I wouldn't expect that in this area, I should say. So I just tried to get to the nearest shelter close as possible.
Has anyone there on the ground been communicating with you about any directions, or is the only direction coming through the Safe app?
Right now, only through the Safe app. I haven't, my supervisors, they're telling us to find shelter and stay inside the building, do not go outside. They want as safe as possible. So I came out here, to give you guys a good view, but I will be going back into shelter shortly here. Yeah,
we want you to be safe, Reginald. So I'm going to go ahead and let you go. I really appreciate the information. Keep in touch with us if anything else comes in, and appreciate your perspective on this.
No problem. Thank you.
Stay safe, Reginald. Thanks for the time.
And right now at 6 o'clock, if you are just joining us, we are monitoring an active shooter call that happened in the 1600 block of Clifton Road around 5 o'clock this afternoon. We can now confirm the FBI is telling us they're aware of the incident in DeKalb County, and they are en route and coordinating with their local partners. You can see even Lithonia Police, DeKalb County Sheriff, DeKalb County Police, Atlanta Police, multiple agencies are on scene here outside the CVS near the CDC entrance, where we now know it's confirmed shots were fired around the 5 o'clock hour, Cheryl, and our sourcing is telling us at least one law enforcement officer was hit and possibly one suspect as well.
We are holding on discussing whether what jurisdiction those officers are from. Cody's sources are giving more information. We're holding until that's confirmed. We know there are a lot of family members and loved ones of law enforcement right now watching this play out, and we understand that's a nerve-wracking and scary situation. We have not heard from different departments yet on who those law enforcement officers are, but we can tell you that Atlanta Police are on scene, Dunwoody Police are on scene. I just got some video 10 seconds ago from 11 Alive reporter Grace King, who just sent me some video of FBI there on scene that Cody was just talking about. A massive police response from DeKalb, all these surroundings jurisdictions from the moment that first report of that active shooter came in. Let's bring in 11 Alive reporter Grace King. Grace, I just saw your video of FBI on scene. Tell us what you're seeing and how this maybe energy has changed in the last 10 minutes or so. As we get to Grace in just a second ago, as she's setting up her shot, we're working to gather information, but also trying to stay out of the way of law enforcement. So she's just making a quick adjustment to where she is there on the scene. But she had seen FBI there right in front of her on scene as they're helping in this investigation, and also working to see if they can contain what's reported as a second shooter in that. So we'll get to Grace in just a minute. There are a lot of businesses in this area. If you're just joining us, this is all centered around the CVS right there, the Emory Point CVS, the apartment building right above that CVS. It's catty corner from the CDC headquarters and right by the university, Emory University campus there. Grace, do we have you now?
Yes. Hello. We are still on scene. Just about everyone you can imagine has showed up in the last couple of minutes. We're still seeing cars, full lights, sirens rushing down Clifton Road, trying to figure out what's going on. A lot of them unmarked. We've seen the FBI show up in the last couple of minutes, the Department of Public Safety. Just about everyone you can imagine starting to set up that perimeter here on Clifton Road. They're still very active. They're still putting on full helmets, rifles, vests, etc., rushing towards that scene. So at least from back here on Clifton Road, it still feels like a very active scene. We're seeing Gwinnett County police cars and some others as well too, but just a lot of worried families rushing to try and figure out what's going on with their loved ones. We've also heard sirens from, it almost feels like Emory, some kind of warning siren that has also continued to go off.
Grace, thanks so much. We do want to get some new information. As I've been reporting from sourcing, is that there was an officer shot. My source had told me from the beginning this was a DeKalb County Sheriff's deputy. NBC News now confirming what we were hearing, a DeKalb County officer, but my sources are telling me that this is a DeKalb County Sheriff's deputy who engaged with this shooter. A second source is telling me possibly a second law enforcement officer was hit. I cannot confirm that without doubt right now, but that's initially what I'm hearing from my same sourcing. But we saw that shot on the ground from Emory Hospital. That is what my sources tell me. This is where they told me the deputy was taken to that, because it's a short distance from where this is all happening, which is a great hospital. But of course, unclear if they'll be sent to the trauma center over at Grady. Yeah, because Grady is a level 1 trauma center equipped for the most critical cases. So significant that they were transported to Emory University Hospital. It is obviously the closest one, but NBC then the second source on that DeKalb County officer. There is not any information at this point on the condition or the extent of that officer's injuries. Obviously, the moment we have more information on that, we will certainly let you know. And right now, the most important point is the question of the second shooter, that we don't know whether that person's been contained in any way. They've set up a perimeter, which you're seeing the law enforcement right now. They've set up a perimeter as they're trying to make certain that they have a handle on this situation. At 6:05 right now, more than an hour and a half in, Emory just sent out another tweet saying, "Continue to shelter in place," which speaks to the question that the threat is not over, not in terms of letting people go back to business. So you have a lot of employees in that area, people who live in that area who have been told, stay where you are, make sure that you are safe, don't go outdoors. And they've asked our 11 Alive helicopter, this is the view from the 11 Alive Sky Tracker right now, to just give a little space to law enforcement to make sure that it is not interfering with any of their technology. But we're able with our cameras to still zoom in to give you a good perspective here as you're seeing fire trucks on the outer edge of that perimeter as well. This is a closer look from a traffic camera at Clifton Road. And Atlanta police are giving us a little better idea of the location. But as we mentioned, my sources telling me that the initial call came in at 1600 Clifton Road. Atlanta police say they responded near 1760 Clifton Road for the report of an active shooter, which we now know confirmed there was a shooting of some kind. We know there's video out there of that gunfire being heard from nearby neighbors. There's a lot of neighborhoods around this area. Of course, there are people that live above where this happened as well in apartments. There's an apartment complex behind that CVS as well. And I'll tell you, Atlanta police, as I think it was Chase mentioned, he saw the police chief there enter into that crime scene. APD knows how to respond to this. Just in the last few years, we had the Midtown shooter that was there. We had the Four Seasons active shooter that was shooting from a high rise, and a sniper from APD took that threat down. So these men and women train. They train across multiple jurisdictions. And what we saw today was a response that they train for. But what's going to be interesting to see is what prompted this and if there is actually a second individual involved. But you can see there is a perimeter set up. While there is some traffic moving, it does appear they do have this perimeter kind of tight with officers surrounding it and keeping that perimeter held at this point as far as 6:07. Grady Public Information Officer confirms that no officer has been sent to Grady Hospital, but 11 Alive reporter Zach Merchant is there at Grady. Zach, what are you hearing on the ground? Any new information coming in there from Grady?
Yeah, Cheryl, actually just in the last couple of minutes, we spoke with a spokesperson from Grady Hospital. They say they're not receiving, at this point at least, any victims from this shooting. They say they're being handled at Emory. So that's the big development right now. Again, Grady saying they're not taking any potential victims, any of the victims from this shooting. Of course, we are here. Often in cases like this, we come to Grady because Grady is a level 1 trauma center. It is place, one of the most advanced hospitals in our region. This is often where trauma victims are taken for treatment. Right now, though, Grady spokeswoman again saying not getting any victims here. I do also want to bring you a little bit of information. We spoke with the FBI about 20, 30 minutes ago, so things are developing since then. But just in the 20 to 30 minutes immediately following the news breaking of this shooting at the Emory campus, an FBI spokesperson said they were aware of the situation, they were tracking it, and just like us at the time, working to get their arms around exactly what happened and calibrate their response to this rapidly unfolding situation. We've also spoken with, just in the last 10 to 15 minutes via text message, a former law enforcement officer and now professor at Georgia State University. That's Thad Johnson. We asked him what is normal for a law enforcement response to this kind of active shooter threat. And he said a lot of what Cody Alcorn has been reporting in real time. Thad said it is common for law enforcement to kind of move in 4 steps on this. First, they move in fast, then they try to lock down the situation, then they work to search and confirm exactly what is happening on scene there once things get a little more under control. And then quickly as well, law enforcement works to start triaging any potential victims. Again, a lot unfolding, a lot we are tracking today. That is what you can expect, according to Thad Johnson, from a law enforcement response to a situation like what is unfolding today. At this point, we can report, again, no victims are coming to Grady, at least for right now. Cheryl.
Zach, that is significant to your point, because when Zach's talking about Grady being the level 1 trauma center, it's significant because the most serious cases go to Grady for that purpose. So the fact that there is not someone there is an important piece of information. And if you're just joining us, what we know from NBC and our sources is that an officer was taken to Emory University Hospital, but the extent of that officer's injuries has not been shared publicly, but the fact that the officer was taken to Emory University Hospital, which was the closest hospital in geographically, but not the level 1 trauma center, is an important and I think encouraging piece of information.
Yeah, we're going to hopefully just hang on to the encouragement from that, and it couldn't be worse. But again, we do know there's a large law enforcement presence at Emory Hospital. When an officer goes down, those colleagues go straight there with the family, likely going to pick that family up, escorting them to that hospital. We know the police chief from Atlanta PD is there. We do know there will be a media staging area, which means there will be a news conference at some point tonight. We'll bring that to you, of course. But right now, as we've been talking, the goal right now of this response is to make sure there is no more threat. And the fact that Emory and DeKalb County Police are saying for everyone to shelter in place, to stay away from this containment, that indicates that at this point they have not given the all clear and they do not believe that the threat has been neutralized. We initially heard that possibly one suspect was hurt. We saw an ambulance, someone being loaded into an ambulance. So the only injuries we've heard at this point, Cheryl, have been law enforcement and a suspect. So that's one of the 2 people we saw there, because my sources are telling me at this point there have been no civilian injuries. And if there were those type of injuries with traumatic injuries, they would go to Grady Hospital. Emory would take some, but they would be taking, if they had multiple gunshot victims, something like that with severe injuries, there's no better, you do not want to go anywhere else but Grady if you have those type of traumatic wounds. So again, the best case scenario here, it's going to be contained to what we have right now. Of course, we never want to hear a law enforcement officer hit, but they did their job. They stopped the threat before it got to civilians. So this is some good news. But again, right now, we cannot say this threat is over here as of 6/12.
And again, that the communication for everyone in this area is to continue to shelter in place. So if you know someone who lives or works in that area and you may be texting with them, the best thing they can do is stay where they're at. That's going to be the safest thing that they can do. It is significant that there are no reports of any civilians being hurt, because this is an area where 11,000 people work at the CDC, 20,000 employees of Emory University, and a lot of apartments and condos in that area as well. So all of those people who are still there there need to stay where they are for now. That is the safest place that you can be.
And I believe Chase has some movement over where he's at. Chase, what are you seeing? What's happening? And where are you exactly?
Hey, Cody. So I'm over off of Old Briarcliff Way northeast, where it turns into that Tower Circle northeast off of Clifton Road. And I want to show you going up that towers, as I just mentioned. I believe they're setting something up right here. This is a rescue team, Atlanta Fire, and they've set up some sort of white flag within the last 20 minutes as maybe a place for people to come and get help and get checked out if they need any sort of medical attention, I should say. Now, I have seen, as Grace mentioned, the FBI here walk up towards campus, I'm assuming is up Tower Circle. And then I've also seen, as you mentioned, plenty of different municipalities coming in here. I just saw a sheriff go up towards campus as well. And again, this is all blocked off. There's a lot of people over here just kind of standing by, wondering what's going on right now. What's the latest, hoping to get new information. As Cody mentioned, there is a media staging area, so we should be hearing from police about what happened and get those what we're hearing fact checked and hear from the source itself. But as Grace mentioned, as I've said, as you guys said, this is a very busy scene. Law enforcement agencies have been going up and down, some of them with long guns running up this hill here. And also, again, I go back to this white flag. I'm thinking this is some sort of medical checkout point for people. But again, we're here off of Old Briarcliff and Tower. So when we get more information, we're hoping to keep you guys updated, but keep coming back. I'm going to keep trying to talk to people, find out why people are here right now, and the impact this is having on them.
All right. Chase, thanks a lot. Chase saw a SWAT vehicle coming in. I think it is a key point of information that there's still law enforcement officers arriving at the scene. So appreciate that update. We just a moment ago got an update from Governor Brian Kemp. This is his statement. We're going to read this together in real time. Twice this week, deranged criminals have targeted innocent Georgians. Each time, brave first responders rush toward the danger to subdue the shooter and save lives, reminding us just how crucial they are. Marty, the girls, and I are thankful for all those who answer the call to serve and who protect their fellow Georgians. We ask that you join us in holding them in our prayers, along with those harmed this evening near the CDC Center. Again, that's a statement just coming in a moment ago from Governor Brian Kemp. We also have a statement from the Attorney General of Georgia, Chris Carr. We can pull that up for you as well here in just a moment. We heard from the Attorney General in the last half hour ago, sharing that he's horrified by the news out of Emory. He wrote that he's praying for the safety of the entire community and that the Attorney General's office stands ready to assist law enforcement. So these are the statements that have come out just a few moments ago from the governor, and within the last 30 minutes from the Attorney General, Chris Carr, who's also a candidate for governor.
And, we're talking about a law enforcement officer shot. Last night I was on the scene just in downtown Atlanta. We had 2 MARTA police officers shot. I mean, it's just the environment we are in across this country, and you hate to see this 2 days in a row. But you can see the massive response here as still a very active scene. You just saw that from Chase. They're still setting up type of triage places in case things go south. So this is an indication, at least from myself, covering active shooters, covering situations like this. Unfortunately, I've covered several, that the threat is by far not over. While we saw them kind of back off earlier, clear out of Clifton Road, we were hoping the threat was over, but what we saw was them now narrowing in and forming that perimeter. Initially, again, we were told from sources that the first law enforcement officer was shot in the 5 o'clock hour. We now know that was a DeKalb County Sheriff's deputy, according to sources, that was hit and taken to Emory. We also got word from sources in our newsroom that one suspect was possibly hit. We saw someone being loaded at an ambulance there out in front of the CVS on Clifton Road, right across from the CDC. We don't have confirmed who that is, but you see the SWAT team right there. That's a Bearcat. Mm-hmm. So if you look to the left of your screen, that is an armored vehicle right there. Now they have crime scene scene tape up across Clifton Road. That was not there during the 5 o'clock hour. So now we have yellow tape actually blocking that intersection. We saw all of that activity. We saw all of the SWAT teams running in there. So that's very interesting. And now we have a Bearcat outside that building, which they only bring those typically in to protect those SWAT officers who are now engaged with possible suspects. So that's an armored vehicle for them to get behind to kind of watch and monitor. So it's going to be very interesting to see what information is put out by law enforcement. Because at this point, Cheryl, nothing has been confirmed by law enforcement other than the fact DeKalb County Communications told NBC National News that they confirmed what we have been reporting from sourcing, that a DeKalb County officer was hit and taken to Emory.
I am looking at some pictures right now that we will turn around and get to you on the air, but these are coming in real time, and they are pictures from people on the scene, and there are bullet holes in glass, and it looks like it's coming from perhaps the perspective of the CDC building. They're pictures from someone who says they are a CDC employee, and it is a source of someone here at the station. So we believe this is from a colleague at the CDC. We had heard about video where you hear rapid gunfire. So we know there's been exchange of gunfire. And now I'm looking at a number of different pictures of bullet holes in glass at the CDC headquarter building. Well, we don't know if that was directed there or if they just were kind of caught in the crossfire at some point, but it speaks to the intensity of that exchange at some point, and also speaks to the fact that we are glad that at this point there are no reports of any civilians who were hurt in any gunfire exchange through the course of the last hour and a half or more that we've been following this active shooter there on the Emory Atlanta campus.
And that's why they want people to shelter in place, because those bullets that you're seeing that we're looking at ourselves are high up. So when these shootouts happen, a lot of times it's just a barrage of gunfire, and those bullets do not have names on them. Okay, let's look at the shot. This is the one I wanted to see.
Yeah.
That's where all the activity was earlier. Those are apartments above the CVS right there outside of the CDC. And that is Clifton Road. That's where all that activity was earlier. And now we have crime scene tape up at the entrance right there outside the CVS. I saw the Bearcat out there by one agency. That's what the SWAT team brings in. And there's also another type of special equipped truck that's there with a box in the back. That's kind of a pulled out view there. That is where all of the action was during the 5 o'clock hour. Our chopper's kind of backing out there. But this area is still very active. And again, sources are telling us there is possibly a second shooter. And by the response here and how they have this area locked down with SWAT teams still engaged, they're doing a couple of things from just experience reporting on this. They're either clearing that building to confirm no second suspect, or they believe possibly there is a second shooter and they're actively trying to find that person.
We have some new information coming in from our partners at CNN. We were talking about the pictures that came in from a CDC employee. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention directly across Clifton Avenue from the Emory Point CVS does not appear to have been breached, according to a law enforcement official. That means no one got into that building. The question is about, some damage that may be to the glass in terms of bullets coming through the glass. We have been getting pictures in from an Emory student who lives at Emory Point. Emory Point is the apartments directly above the CVS on the first floor where the reports of this active shooter happened, and where Cody and I had been watching that initial response, including SWAT officers running to that front entrance of the CDC, where we were hearing reports of a gunfire exchange. So if there are windows broken at the CDC, that's because a bullet flew across the intersection and hit it. According to the CDC, there was not a breach of that building.
And we are just hearing they are going to have a news conference in the Clifton Road Kroger soon. That's in the 1700 block. So I know our team is listening to us. If anybody's close to the Kroger on Clifton Road at 1799, that is where a news conference is going to be held in a moment. And I will tell you this, These are some new pictures coming in, but we are getting new information. I'm going to work on some sourcing here about one of those officers possibly hit, but I'm going to work on that right now as we look at these pictures. Cheryl, you were just talking about it.
Okay, you work on your source, and I'll talk through these pictures. Just a few minutes ago, I was talking about the pictures that came and showing the bullet holes in the windows. We're now looking at those pictures together. This is a close-up of one of the bullet CDC building. This is a wider shot, obviously, from this would be the perspective from the CVS or the Emory campus at Emory Point right there, looking across the intersection diagonally at the CDC headquarter building. You see, these are the pictures that show damage to some of the windows, bullet holes in some of those windows, diagonally across Clifton Avenue there. This is sent to us from an Emory University student who lives in the Emory Point apartments right above the CVS where that active shooter came in late this afternoon and where the police response has been happening ever since. If you want to cycle through a few more of those pictures for anyone who might have missed those, it would be great to show that in just a minute. We can get back to that. We're now looking at sort of the outside of this perimeter as fire trucks are blocking off the road to Cody's point, setting up this perimeter to make sure that whatever threat may still remain is contained. And we cannot stress enough the situation with perhaps the officers that we know reports of being injured. We have confirmed through DeKalb County, one DeKalb officer was injured. We don't know the extent of those injuries, and reports of a second law enforcement officer who may have been hit. And again, we're working right now. Cody, you're talking to your sources about any new information about those officers, because that is certainly where our thoughts and our hearts are.
Well, I'll tell you this, right now, law enforcement is going to need a lot of prayers across Metro Atlanta tonight as we learn new information. But just keep those law enforcement officers, their families in your prayers. They're going to need a lot of them. We're going to probably learn more in that news conference. But what I do want to let you know, if you're kind of watching this, there is a small portion of this area over in DeKalb County. That's why we've seen a lot of DeKalb County response. You've seen multiple local jurisdictions. You've seen APD. But again, it does seem like this all happened around Emory Point CVS. Again, this is across the street from the CDC. That is what kind of triggers that national news, that national mindset of, was this an attack at the CDC? It does not appear that's the case at all. It appears it happened across the street at the Emory Point CVS. That's where Cheryl and I watched those SWAT team members race towards in those live shots just after that alert went out at 5 o'clock. That is where crime scene tape is up outside of the CVS at Emory Point. It's right there in that intersection. So it's going to be interesting to find out what. And that car has been parked there. I don't know if the helicopter will zoom down, but there is a white car parked out the front of that CVS. I noticed it earlier when they had the ambulance out there, and that car has not moved. It does not look like an unmarked car. It does not look like it's a police car, but it's got the trunk popped open. So very interesting if that plays a role in anything. But I can tell you that intersection is blocked off, and that's where the focus of all of this response is. So to the right, if you're looking at that intersection, that's the entrance near the CDC. On the left, that building with the yellow bottom, that's the CVS. There are apartments above that and an entire apartment building behind there. So you see, and there's woods that surround it. Those woods to the back, that's neighborhoods. I've had a friend that he actually reached out and said, what is happening? Yeah. The video that people are sharing right now on social media of the shootout, the gunshots, those are from neighborhoods behind there that they had no idea at first what in the world was happening.
They just heard the gunfire, got their attention. So that's
at 11 Alive News, we get it. We're here to help.
These are the Atlanta zip codes with the highest car insurance.